Welcome to episode 5 of a Brief History of Nothing. I'm James.
I'm Ray.
And he has an interesting pledge, apparently.
Of course.
Of course. Alrighty, first...
James, you want to talk about autism and vaccines?
Yes, well, apparently we in Australia sort of didn't hear about it, but apparently this month is supposed to be Autism Awareness Month, allegedly. And I have autism, you probably have picked that up from my mannerisms. But there is a little bit of controversy with the organisation that runs it, called Autism Speaks. Apparently, they basically sort of, a lot of their publicity sort of treats autism as a pandemic, as that kind of thing. And one of their I think board members or one of their managers said that, you know, she was going to drive herself and her autistic daughter off a cliff, but the only thing that stopped her was the fact that she had a non-autistic daughter at home. So, there's some issue with Autism Speaks, which is based in the States. I forget exactly where, but it's based in the United States. But one thing I really wanted to push, and I've talked about it before, but it really needs to get out, and we're on the subject. Vaccines do not cause autism. Thimerosal, which used to be in a lot of vaccines, which isn't anymore, does not cause autism. Can we get over this now? Seriously. Like, vaccine rates are dropping rapidly, and there have been outbreaks of measles and other problems.
Well, they've just closed most of the loopholes as far as child's vaccinations now. So the government said, well, if you don't vaccinate, you don't get government payments. And I'm sorry if I offend people, but fair enough.
Yeah.
I don't want my children or possible grandchildren or to get illnesses that could have been prevented, but because some numbskull decided that because of religious reasons or
conscientious objection,
that they weren't going to get their children vaccinated.
Well, this is the thing, look, correct me if I'm wrong, if there's any biochemists or molecular biologists watching, but the more...
Yeah, we have upper crust people that watch us.
Obviously. But the more, I may be wrong with here, but the more a virus can infect people and the more it reproduces, because that's why it infects you. It needs the mechanisms that...
The host to
actually replicate. And the more it replicates, the more mutations are possible. And so you get different strains of the same virus. So you might be immunised against one strain of a virus.
Well, that's the problem. That's why the flu vaccine is late this year, because in North America, where they gave the flu vaccine out, they for one strain of flu, a lot of people got the flu after getting the virus, because then they had to take the virus back and modify it.
Yeah.
So we were late getting the flu virus, but we're a lot more protected in North America.
Excuse me. I have a bit of a bark at the moment. Speaking of flu, it's cold really, but yes, this is, so yeah, and like we've talked about earlier in a previous episode, we've talked about Riley Hughes, little baby that died of pertussis, and also recently, a few days ago, there was a lady in Canada, Tara Hills, who she has 5 children and got the youngest 2 vaccinated, but then got one all anti-vax and the other 3, and herself, her husband, and her 3 kids got whooping cough. And then she realised, wait a minute, this whole vaccine thing might be a thing.
Really? Wow.
Fortunately, pertussis, unlike most vaccinated preventable diseases, pertussis is actually a bacterial infection, so they were able to get antibiotics and cure it. But just always, look, I know it hurts to get them, I know, but you gotta have them. Like, 5 minutes of pain is better than feeling like death.
Yes, so the fact that I got you vaccinated when you were a child, did that leave any lasting repercussions on you?
Not getting rubella, not getting the measles, not getting pertussis, not getting polio, not getting diphtheria, and not getting meningococcal.
Sorry, I failed you.
I know, you stopped me from getting horribly, horribly, gravely ill.
I'll do better next time.
Some father, I mean, I don't know.
Yes,
anyway, You wanted to do a science thing.
Yes, me. I do science, me. Right, NASA.
I'll just stand over here. Just in case there's a mushroom cloud.
has many probes on Mars, but one of them is the Curiosity rover.
Yeah, it's one of the 2 rovers they have.
It's been taking measurements in Gale crater on Mars, and they have discovered frozen water below the surface of Mars, which is a very useful thing if they plan to colonise Mars. You stick up a dome, terraform that little area, and you just pump up the...
Yeah, there's actually salts under the Earth. Oh, under the Earth. Try that again. There's actually salts under the surface there,
yes,
that actually absorb the moisture. Because liquid water on Mars can't exist normally because there's not enough pressure for it to exist. It's like, have you ever seen like a experiment where they put like a glass of water in a vacuum tube and the water boils?
No, I've never seen that.
Well, it's on YouTube. I'll link it in the description.
Okay.
But there's not actually enough pressure on Mars for liquid water to exist. And so so what happens though, if the humidity actually seeps into these salts, and it gets absorbed into the salts. And I can't exactly remember what the salts are. I like chemistry and I forget what they are. But anyway.
Yes.
Thank you. But yeah, so hopefully we're a little bit closer to actually being able to find the resources on Mars that we...
Isn't the gravity on Mars less than Earth though?
Oh, it is way less than Earth. I mean, it's
So
about a third.
So that they would have to then figure out a way to increase gravity for any long term, because after a while, if you'd been on Mars, you couldn't come back to Earth, I would have thought.
Well, but people go into space for... Well, they're actually now... NASA are running an experiment where they have 2 identical twins.
Yeah.
One of them's going into space, one of them's staying on Earth. One of them going on the ISS for a year, in 0G.
Yeah, well, they're finding muscle wastage is a real problem.
Yeah, well, that's why they have to exercise and do resistance training. Now, Jeremy Clarkson, Mr. Clarkson.
Yes. He has a replacement. The tip is a Phillip Glenister, 52-year-old actor. He's a bit of a bona fide car nut. His best known role, oddly enough, is in a TV show called Life on Mars. It's about a detective that has an accident and then goes back in time, but we don't know whether he's back in time or it's all playing out in the detective's head. And he plays the lead detective from previous era. He's if you look up he's a tough-looking nut. He looks very much in the Jeremy Clarkson sort of mould. That's probably why they picked him. Yes, and he has a few credentials. He's hosted a car show for the love of cars.
Excuse me again. There we go.
So yeah, we'll see how he travels if he gets the gig. But that's the tip. And in more recent news, Mr. Clarkson has said very recently that he's decided he's going to start another car show. No details yet into when, where, and he hasn't said how, what shape it's going to be or anything. Just that he wants to start another car show. I wonder if there'll be a couple of defectors.
I wonder why. Who would want to defect?
I don't know who'd want to defect.
The short guy and the tall guy with the hair?
Possibly.
Oh,
yes.
The other two. Yes. But Phillip Glenister, is he loud and bombastic like Clarkson is?
I don't know what the actor... I mean, he plays a tough, sort of forceful role in most of his roles, so I don't know what the actor himself is like, but yeah, I don't think he'd be a shrinking violet, no.
Well, as long as because that's what I think part of the draw of Top Gear was Jeremy Clarkson's manner.
Yes.
Was his very loud, bombastic manner. So
as Ben Collins described him, he's a trained chimpanzee or gorilla or something. He's just trained ape.
Yeah. Excuse me.
Yes. He's a force of nature, is another quote that was made of him.
And Eric the Car Guy has opinions.
Yes, Eric the Car Guy. I was watching Eric the Car Guy. Get onto his channel. He's a real Top Gear nut. He he'll keep you up to date on all things going on, and we'll see how it all goes. But yeah, that's not a bad channel actually if you're into cars and things. Eric the Car Guy.
Yes. Now, one last little point here is that this coming Saturday here in Australia and New Zealand, there is a day called ANZAC Day. ANZAC, Australian and New Zealand Army Corps. It is to mark the centenary of the landing at Gallipoli in World War One.
Yes, the Australians landed on the 25th of April 1915.
At about 4 in the morning.
Yes, yeah, in the wrong spot, in a
Yes,
little cove about a mile or so up from where they were supposed to land.
Beach, mountains.
Yes.
That's not going to work.
No, so I had a great uncle, and James has a great uncle.
Time two uncle.
Yes, who Henry Taylor. He was in the 15th Battalion in Gallipoli. He was killed at Quinn's Post. So it's something that's pretty dear to us.
And his grandfather, therefore my great grandfather,
served in World War One on HMS Tiger in the Royal Navy.
What did he do in World War Two? He served in World War Two.
He was on HMS Canimbla when it was a armed merchantman and took part in an action in the Red Sea in company with another Australian ship and a couple of English ships, the HMAS Yarra, and they captured a port and quite a few coastal freighters in this action. It was quite the coastal freighters, the small axis ships were captured by shore parties who went on board and captured them intact, so that the Allies could use these ships. So it's a big day here in Australia. It's a public holiday.
Yeah, and marches all over the country.
And I don't know what they call it in England and the US.
Well, it's not a thing in the US. They have veterans.
They do have
a thing, but probably not on the 25th of April.
No. They have a different times.
They have Veterans Day on the 11th of November.
Yes.
And Australia, New Zealand, and England has Remembrance Day on that day. It's to mark the signing of the Treaty of Versailles on the 11th
of November. It's not the Treaty of Versailles. It's the cessation of hostilities.
Right, on the 11th hour of the 11th month. Yes.
The treaty wasn't signed until 1919, a year later.
Right. But it was cessation, so the guns fell silent.
On the 11th of the 11th.
1918.
Yes. Yes. And an interesting thing on that was that in latter part of World War One, then the Australians, Monash, when he finally got the Australians all under one command, integrated infantry, tanks and aircraft for the first time ever, and the Germans wondered what the hell had happened.
Yes.
And the Germans were smart enough to figure out that if it was used against them and was very successful, next time war happened, we'll use it, and they gave it a name called Blitzkrieg.
Yes.
More advanced, but still they integrated armour, infantry and aircraft.
And also, interesting little fact is that the AIS, Australian Infantry Force in World War I, was paid hugely more than the British Army.
Yes, Australian Imperial Force, yes, AIF stands for Australian Imperial Force, the first one. They were paid quite a deal more than the British Army. And
also, so they had all this disposable income, so when they went to Egypt, they would go to the local brothels in Egypt, and then they would have, which caused an outbreak of syphilis.
Yes, yes.
The days before antibiotics, that was a problem.
Yes, it was a great problem. That was. They had special camps for men with venereal disease.
Now, you were going to read some of your book.
Yes, on a similar note, my book review. I found this in a little pop-up bookstore in my shopping centre called Forgotten Voices of the Second World War. It's a book made up of quotes and stories from people who were there at the time, and I'd like to read you a few of these, so that we can sort of get an idea of. Now, the first one is from an Evelyn White, a civilian in Birmingham. I remember vividly, peace in our time. Neville Chamberlain coming back from Munich. We thought, thank God, it's going to be peace. It's not going to be war. But, of course, events proved wrong. I began thinking, it's going to be like the First World War, when thousands of men were killed. In a way, they were like human fodder. I thought, it's going to be a repeat. What's going to happen to my brothers? That was in the outbreak of war in 1939.
Yeah.
Right. The next one I will read. Also in 1939 at the outbreak is a Lieutenant Dick Caldwell, Lieutenant Surgeon in the Royal Navy. As war approached, I think the thought of going to war was exciting. The day war was declared, the Admiral called us all together in the wardroom and gave us champagne and gave us a toast, damnation to Hitler. And the third one's a little later on after the war had started. It was 1940. And this is from Senior Aircraftsman James Merritt, Ground Gunner RAF. And I went in the pub the first night I came back from France. This is after Dunkirk. And the landlord said to me, "Oh, we thought you'd been took prisoner." And the old Bill, the postman, took one look at me at the bar. He said, old Bill, the postman, took one look. I told you if there's only one bugger come back, it'll be him.
Yes. And it's interesting, just not because, you know, we can go, oh, this army fought that army in this place and this person, you know, in this army won and what have you, but to actually get the human stories.
That's the interesting part of this book. It's the human stories and people's thoughts of the time, and it's great. You don't get a lot of war in this book, but you get a lot about the war. It's an interesting read in so many ways. So yeah, I'd recommend that if you can find it. I mean,
if I can get it on Amazon or on Google Play, if it exists on either of those platforms, I will put a link in the description.
Yes.
To see if you can get hold of it.
There's another really interesting book I'd like to talk about, just quickly, and it's a book called Digger. It's about the Australian infantryman since basically 1900, and what he was like, and some of the things he got up to, and the English really struggled to cope with the Australians because they were so the officers were so regimented, and the Australians, because they were a volunteer citizen army, they paid regard to rank when they thought it was due, when they didn't think it was due, and that just didn't suit the British officers at all well. No. They you know, you should stand and salute, and when you're not in the line, be neat and tidy and all the rest of it, and the Australians went, well, you know, bugger you. And
yeah, pretty much.
That didn't go down well, but the Australians proved that they were the equal of any, and at one point the Australians made up 10% of the troops on the Western Front and held 30% of the line at one point, which, you know, is huge.
Yeah, so, I mean, is it? If I can find it on Amazon or Google Play, I'll put it in the description. Yeah, that's pretty much it, although you did have a quick piece of trivia about the Morton's toe.
Oh, yes, I forgot about the Morton's toe. Yes, if your second toe is longer than your first toe, your big toe, then that is called Morton's toe. I don't know why it's called Morton's toe. I just found that little bit of useless information out, and I thought I'd share it. I mean, you know, everybody needs to know a good little bit of useless information.
But it has no medical implications whatsoever. I mean, you might kick your toe, so instead of kicking your
big toe, you'll kick your second toe. But other than that, the hurt is still the same.
Yes, particularly when you hit your best pair of bare feet on the coffee table in the dark.
Oh yes. That's always good. Well, or the corner of the. My favourite is lounge chairs, and the little feet they put on the lounge chairs.
Yep.
I broke my toe a week before my sister's wedding, and then had to try and fit this very sore, swollen toe into a pair of dress shoes, which was not fun.
Did you take ibuprofen by the ton?
Not quite, but yeah, I did have a few. All right then.
That's it for us this week, and yeah, sorry about a 2-week hiatus, but
Yeah, we if it was going to go wrong, it did and had. We were shifting. James was shifting house for the first week, and then we recorded a program last week.
And the video file just went no.
Yeah, the little memory card went decided life's all too hard, and so this is our third attempt at the 5th episode.
So hopefully we'll actually get this time.
Yep.
Yes. All right then. See you later.